My father's divorce from my mother came as a shock, primarily because he left her for his much younger secretary. At 57, after a promotion to CEO at the company where he'd started as an intern 27 years ago, he found himself in a new chapter of life, leaving behind my mother, who was 49 at the time. My mother, a self-made owner of a successful news channel company, handled the divorce with grace and resilience, ensuring she secured her fair share of their shared assets, including the family home and a significant portion of their savings. Despite the challenges, she remained poised and dignified, a quality I've always admired in her. I'm a 27-year-old graphic designer skills, making my own path and preparing to launch my own business. My passion for graphic design was ignited early on, influenced by my mother's involvement in the digital world since the onset of the internet revolution. This early exposure allowed me to start earning a substantial income by the end of high school. Growing up, my parents were a dynamic team, both ambitious and devoted to their careers, which unfortunately left little time for each other, leading to them growing apart over the years. Their separation was amicable. They never resorted to bitterness or blame. As for me, having moved into a spacious one-bedroom apartment during college funded by my freelance work, I've enjoyed my independence and tried to maintain balanced relationships with both parents post-divorce. However, when my stepmother, my father's new partner, began trying to assert control over me, I had to stand my ground and set boundaries to preserve my autonomy. In this complex family dynamic, each of us has navigated personal and professional challenges, always striving to find our own version of happiness and success amidst the changes life throws our way. I am a mature adult and have maintained a close relationship with both of my parents, although I've always been a bit closer to my mom. My respect for my dad grew from watching him support and celebrate my mom's achievements. However, their marriage ended when my mom discovered that dad was involved with his secretary, Ellie, and she asked him to leave. Despite the company's strict policy against dating coworkers, my dad tried to keep the relationship discreet until he could plan his next steps. Unfortunately, Ellie shared their relationship with her friends at work, leading to both of them being fired from their jobs. Recently, I bought a luxurious 3-bedroom penthouse, a significant milestone for me. Last week, my dad visited and asked if he and Ellie, who he plans to marry next month, could stay with me. He's currently without a job, trying to start new business ventures, and they're both living off their savings since losing their jobs. I asked for some time to think over his request because I value my privacy, and having them live with me could disrupt that. My dad assured me they would be unobtrusive, and I wouldn't even notice their presence. I spoke with my mom about it, and she encouraged me to make my own decision, reassuring me that she harbors no ill feelings and trusts my judgment. I want to help my dad. He has always been caring and supportive. However, I'm apprehensive about how Ellie might fit into our lives. It's a tough decision, and I'm torn between helping my father and maintaining my own space. I eventually decided to let them move in after their wedding. They had a lavish ceremony and a honeymoon, which surprised me given their financial situation. Since moving in, Ellie has not shown any initiative to find a job and often has visitors over, from family to new friends she meets randomly. Her 7-year-old daughter, who lives with them, tends to be quite unruly and demanding. This situation has placed a strain on my daily life, and I am left wondering how long this arrangement can last. I am reaching out for advice from anyone who has been in a similar situation, as I could really use some guidance on how to handle this delicate family dynamic. It's curious how some people are considered social butterflies, yet their daily routine primarily involves sitting at home, chatting away, and not doing much else. This always struck me as peculiar, especially compared to my mother, who was always on the move. Even when most people relaxed on weekends, she was active, a stark contrast to the new woman in my dad's life, Ellie. I sometimes wonder if my dad has been entirely honest with Ellie about his financial situation. Given the costly divorce where he lost much to my mom, it's hard to believe he's as well off as Ellie seems to think. As for my personal life, it's taken a delightful turn. I've recently gotten close to William, a budding brand identity designer who was once just a client. Our professional relationship turned romantic after I began editing her videos and we met in person. William is wonderful, and we enjoy our time together, usually at her place, which she shares with her younger sister and a few pets. They inherited the house from their grandfather, under whose care they remained until his passing. On the home front, things could be better. Ellie, despite not being outright troublesome, has started to overstep her boundaries a bit. It's only happened a couple of times, but I've made it clear I won't tolerate any intrusion into my personal space. If she steps out of line, I'll make sure to set firm boundaries. I proposed to William last week, and she said yes. It might seem quick to some, but I've always been sure about her. Meanwhile, the situation with Ellie at home remains tense. Although initially unobtrusive, she's begun to critique my lifestyle, which I find annoying and unwarranted. My dad has tried to manage the situation after I brought it to his attention, but it's been a delicate issue. Ellie didn't react well to the criticism, but fortunately, she hasn't acted out in response. As for me, I'm just looking forward to building a future with William and hoping for some peace at home. 9 months ago, my father embarked on a business trip to San Francisco to meet with his investors. During his absence, my stepmother, Ellie, seized the opportunity to make my life difficult. She started issuing commands for me to take care of all the household chores, washing dishes, doing laundry, and even mowing the lawn. However, I paid no heed to her demands. I prepared my meals and managed the cleaning on my own schedule. It was, after all, my house, and I was not about to let anyone dictate how I should live in it. Ellie did not take kindly to being ignored. On one occasion, she exploded in frustration, labeling me a lazy freeloader living off my father's wealth. She was utterly mistaken about my circumstances. I am actually a career coach, working from home due to the nature of my job. Ellie, under the false impression that I was jobless, thought I spent my days idly surfing the internet. I considered correcting her assumptions about the ownership of the house and my financial independence, but I hesitated. I was unsure of what my father might have told her, and I didn't want to risk damaging their relationship. Thus, I decided to let her remain unaware until my father returned from his trip, especially since he was already under considerable stress from his business dealings. Ellie's daughter, who seems to be following in her footsteps, added to the chaos by damaging my belongings and causing general mayhem around the house. Throughout that month, Ellie's behavior became increasingly challenging. Her constant nagging and demands escalated to the point where I avoided common areas just to keep away from her. She even resorted to knocking on my door to order me around, making me feel trapped in my own home. Upon my father's return, I immediately addressed the issue of Ellie's behavior. I explained that I could no longer tolerate living under the same roof with her unless she changed her ways. My father apologized on her behalf and revealed that she was 3 months pregnant, suggesting that her hormones were to blame. I remembered how my father divorced my mother over similar issues and wondered how he would handle the situation with Ellie. I expressed my desire to move forward with my life, particularly mentioning my plans with William, my girlfriend, with whom I was considering settling down. I hinted at the need for privacy in the foreseeable future. My father reassured me that his business would stabilize within 3 months, hopefully allowing him to find a separate living arrangement. Curiously, when I asked if Ellie knew the house was actually mine, he avoided the question, which led me to believe he hadn't informed her of this fact. For the time being, I find solace in staying at William's place, away from the stress at home. I am hopeful for a resolution where I can finally have my space back, free from Ellie's disruptive presence. I recently proposed to William, planning to marry her in the upcoming months. However, just a month after our engagement, Ellie began causing trouble. Usually, I spend most of my days at Ellie's place, but this time, due to a severe viral fever that left me bedridden, I stayed at my own house. Ellie, who rarely visits, took this opportunity to come over. William stayed with me for a few days to care for me during my illness. Ellie used this chance to try and turn William against me. She falsely accused me of being lazy and not contributing to household tasks, claiming that she does all the cooking and cleaning. Ellie even went as far as to say that my lack of involvement was due to a patriarchal upbringing, pointing out that my father never helped during her pregnancy and she had to manage everything alone. Moreover, Ellie insinuated that I was unfaithful, much like my father had been, alleging that I had cheated on William and brought other women to our house. When William questioned her about these women, Ellie described them in such a way that William recognized them as merely my friends and co-workers. William returned to her home the following day, seeming unsure about our relationship. When I visited her after recovering, she expressed doubts about rushing into things. Sensing Ellie's influence, I confronted William, who reluctantly revealed what Ellie had told her. I explained to William that Ellie was deceitfully portraying herself as a victim due to misconceptions about our family's financial situation. Realizing the extent of Ellie's manipulation, I knew I needed to remove this toxic influence from our lives. I confronted Ellie at home, telling her to stop her deceit. In response, she defiantly claimed ownership of the house and threatened legal action. I firmly told her the house was legally mine, a fact she was unaware of, and warned her to leave if she continued her behavior. Throughout this ordeal, I learned the importance of clear communication and support in a relationship. William needed a partner who would actively share household responsibilities, not someone who left everything to her. By addressing the issue head-on with Ellie and committing to being a more engaged partner, I hope to rebuild trust with William and move forward together. The tension in my home had reached a boiling point. In a fit of anger, she grabbed my collar, attempting to drag me out of the house. I managed to break free and sternly warned her against touching me again. Just then, my father arrived, likely alerted by her during the heated moment when I was disposing of her belongings. My father tried to calm me down, but I couldn't contain my frustration and blurted out that he had made a significant mistake by allowing her into our lives. She egged my father on, hoping he would reprimand me for my harsh words, but instead, he shouted at her to remain quiet. She persisted, urging him to kick me out. That's when my father disclosed that the house actually belonged to me, which took her by surprise, and she labeled him a betrayer. In the heat of that moment, I told my father to take her away, unable to tolerate her attempts to disrupt my engagement and my life. After a while, as they packed up to leave, I overheard her bad-mouthing me, my father, and even my mother. I was tempted to confront her physically, but decided against escalating the situation further. A week has passed since they left, and while I felt a sense of relief at standing up to her, it's undeniable that my relationship with my father has suffered. I regret the harsh words exchanged, but hope my father understands how important William is to me and how detrimental her interference was. The next day, I visited my mother and recounted the events. She found humor in the situation and, over a glass of wine, invited William to dinner to clear the air about the dynamics in our family. My mother, a woman of substantial grace and wit, reassured William of my father's respect and support despite their separation. She advised me to give William the space to make her own decisions, leaving me hopeful for a resolution. My mother jokingly referred to the other woman as a serial chaser, predicting she'd soon be on the lookout for another affluent partner now that she knew of my father's financial troubles. This brought a lighter mood to the situation, and despite the rift with my father, I felt less burdened, ready to move forward and leave this chapter behind. A minimum. I couldn't attend the event, but according to my boyfriend, he met up with some friends at their Airbnb rental on that day. Later, his former professor arrived at the Airbnb, bringing along a few of her girlfriends. They all stayed there overnight. The next day, they attended the event together and afterwards went out for drinks at a bar. Most of them had quite a bit to drink, except for my boyfriend, who chose to be the designated driver for his professor and her friends. During the event, his professor won a model kit, and despite being somewhat inebriated, she asked my boyfriend to help her assemble it later that night. My boyfriend assures me that nothing inappropriate occurred after they returned from the event. Since then, this group has stayed in touch through a group chat, planning and discussing upcoming events. My boyfriend and his friends have since met his professor's fiancée at an anime convention, and it seems like everyone got along well. The professor continues to show interest in attending more events with my boyfriend and his group. I trust my boyfriend completely and don't believe he's hiding anything from me. However, I must admit I find their friendship a bit unusual since she is his professor. We've discussed this, and he reassures me that I have nothing to worry about. Recently, after a heart-to-heart conversation, my boyfriend acknowledged that their interaction might have crossed some of my boundaries. He explained that the professor might act this way because she often feels bored when hanging out with her fiancé's friends and might be seeking attention from others. Following our discussion, he spoke with her about maintaining more distance in their friendship out of respect for my feelings. She understood and agreed, explaining that she sees him like a brother, which is why she felt so comfortable around him. I'd love to hear others' thoughts on this situation. Is this something I should be concerned about, or is it genuinely harmless? Thank you for sharing your insights. She is also a member of his Discord chat, where one of his friends invited her to attend a model building show and dinner. I decided to go as well to meet her personally. The dinner was first, and it turned out to be quite awkward. She almost entirely ignored me that evening. When she arrived at the table, she greeted my boyfriend but not me, which even he noticed and felt compelled to introduce us. As the night progressed, she became more inebriated and began making odd remarks about my boyfriend to his friends, mentioning things like he could have been the top student if only he hadn't missed a particular assignment. She even brought up how my boyfriend had given her 3-star review on Rate My Professor. Ultimately, she didn't attend the show, but afterwards, my boyfriend and his friends decided to honor my feelings by planning a men-only night in the future. I'm really looking to get other people's perspectives on this situation to determine if her behavior seems suspicious.